Imagine being trapped in a world where you cannot see the beauty around you, cannot hear the voices of your loved ones, and cannot speak to express yourself. What would life be like? For many, it would be impossible to navigate such a world, but one woman defied all odds and emerged as a global symbol of courage, strength, and resilience. This is the inspiring story of Helen Keller, a woman who turned her disabilities into abilities and became a beacon of hope for millions. Helen Adams Keller was born on June 27, 1880, in a small town called Tuscumbia, Alabama, in the United States. Her parents were Captain Arthur Keller and Kate Adams Keller. Helen was a healthy and happy baby, and her family adored her. But when she was just 19 months old, something terrible happened. Helen fell seriously ill with a high fever. Today, doctors think she had either scarlet fever or meningitis, but at that time, no one knew exactly what it was. Helen recovered from the illness, but the fever had left its mark. When she woke up, she couldn't see, hear, or speak. Imagine the shock and fear her parents must have felt. Their little girl, who had been full of life and energy, was now cut off from the world, unable to communicate or understand what was happening around her. As Helen grew older, her frustration grew too. She couldn't express her needs or desires, and she would often throw tantrums because she couldn't communicate with anyone. Her family tried to help, but no one knew what to do. They loved her deeply but felt helpless. When Helen was 6 years old, her mother read about another deaf and blind girl who had been taught to communicate. This gave her hope. She believed that her daughter, too, could learn to live a fulfilling life. After much searching, the Kellers found someone who would change Helen's life forever, Anne Sullivan. Anne Sullivan was a young woman who had suffered from vision problems herself. She was determined, patient, and, most importantly, she believed in Helen's potential. On March 3, 1887, Anne arrived at the Keller household, and from that day, Helen's life took a new turn. Anne immediately began teaching Helen how to communicate using sign language. At first, Helen didn't understand what Anne was trying to teach her. But Anne was persistent. One day, as Anne was pumping water into Helen's hand and spelling the word water on her other hand, a miracle happened. Helen suddenly understood that the letters spelled out the word for the cool, refreshing liquid she felt on her hand. It was as if a light had been turned on in her dark world. From that moment, Helen's thirst for knowledge was insatiable. She learned new words quickly and began understanding the world around her. And taught Helen to read and write using Braille, a system of raised dots that blind people use to read by touch. Helen even learned to speak by feeling the vibrations of people's lips and throat as they talked. It was an incredibly difficult process, but Helen was determined. Helen Keller was not just a student, she was a brilliant one. She became the first deaf-blind person to graduate from college, earning a degree from Radcliffe College in 1904. This was a remarkable achievement, especially considering the obstacles she had faced. Anne Sullivan stayed by her side, interpreting lessons and helping her understand the world. But Helen's achievements didn't stop there. She became a famous author, writing several books about her life and experiences. Her most famous work, The Story of My Life, has inspired generations of people all over the world. Helen used her writing to advocate for people with disabilities and to raise awareness about the struggles they face. Helen Keller didn't just focus on her own challenges, though. She was deeply passionate about social issues. She became a political activist, fighting for the rights of women, workers, and people with disabilities. She believed in equality and worked tirelessly to make the world a better place for everyone. In fact, she was a member of the Socialist Party and supported causes like women's suffrage, labor rights, and pacifism. Helen traveled the world, giving speeches and meeting important figures like Mark Twain, Alexander Graham Bell, and even U.S. presidents. One of Helen's biggest goals was to help improve the lives of blind and deaf people. She worked with organizations like the American Foundation for the Blind, where she helped raise funds and create programs to assist those in need. Her advocacy didn't just improve conditions for people with disabilities in the United States, but all over the world. Helen Keller became a symbol of hope and possibility for people who thought their challenges were too great to overcome. Throughout her life, Helen faced criticism and prejudice. Some people didn't believe that a deaf and blind woman could achieve what she did. Others were uncomfortable with her political views. But Helen was fearless. She didn't let the opinions of others stop her from pursuing her goals and making a difference. Despite all her accomplishments, Helen remained humble. She always credited Anne Sullivan, her beloved teacher, for opening the door to the world for her. And then Helen shared an incredible bond that lasted for nearly 50 years. Anne passed away in 1936, and Helen was heartbroken. However, she continued to work and advocate for the causes she believed in, carrying on the legacy that she and Anne had built together. Helen Keller lived a long and fulfilling life. She passed away on June 1, 1968, at the age of 87. Her legacy lives on in the countless people she inspired and the changes she brought to the world. Helen Keller showed us that no matter what challenges we face, we can overcome them with determination, hard work, and the support of those who believe in us. Her life teaches us that even when the world seems dark and quiet, there is always a way to break through the silence and find our voice. Helen Keller's story is a reminder that no obstacle is too big, and no dream is too far out of reach. If Helen Keller's story has inspired you to believe in the power of determination and the human spirit, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. There are many more incredible stories like this one, waiting to be discovered. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more amazing content.